Greetings, everyone. Mouthy Mitch here again. I wanted to offer some advice or just talk about how to get investors, how to attract investors for the remaining of 2015 and 2016. I know a lot of people need help with that. You have some brilliant entrepreneurs out there and small business owners that just don't have the funding and they don't know where to begin to launch their business or to seek funding. So I'm just going to offer some advice on 10 ways, and you don't have to use all 10, but just 10 ways that will help to attract investors in 2015, 2016 because trends change so fast. I'm going to keep it short term. All right. So let's start with the 90s. During the 90s, it was all about the kick ass business plan. That was usually how people attracted investors, that kick-ass business plan. The business plan came first and then a website followed, but the internet, once again, in the early 90s, still had not been officially launched. It wasn't mainstream. Uh, and marketing and attracting attention was done through direct sales, TV ads, door to door, and word of mouth. Some of the businesses I recall that came up in the 90s, of course, was Sean Combs' Bad Boy Entertainment, Jay-Z Rockefeller Records, Tommy Hilfiger's Fashion, Fubu, Damon John, who's on Shark Tank, Vans the Footwear, Mosimo Fashion, Joe Boxers, Pepe Jeans, Google, Craigslist, Carl Kanai, and Diesel Shoes. Those were some of the most popular businesses that I remember when they really took off in the 90s and they were like the craze. But there was one business that changed the game. And this was around, I think, 98, 99. It was Napster. Napster was a digital website, and the music industry was already losing money at this point through pirating. People were just buying cassette tapes and recording albums, but the quality wasn't so good. And then you had people were using CDs, and they were burning copies of music that was out there. So that was already hurting the music industry. But what Napster did was you didn't have to leave your house for Napster. And Napster also brought back a lot of music that people thought was gone or that they couldn't even get at Sam Goody or the Wiz or any of these chains that existed back then that sold music. Because you had to basically go to Sam Goody or Tower Records or the Wiz if you wanted to buy a CD, or mom or pop store to buy music. There was no online. You couldn't get any music online. It was unheard of. All right, so Napster changed the game, and also Prince, the musician Prince. Prince was in a dispute with his record label, so what he did was take his album online and sell it to his fans directly. I think the album was called Crystal Ball, and in 2000, not I mean in 19, it was sometime in the late 90s. But from what I know, Prince said he made something like I think half a million on that album, just off sales and market, just off of direct internet sales and then touring to promote it. And he said the good thing is he didn't have to pay a record label. He said he made more off of his gold album he sold online than he did on a multi-platinum through mass distribution through a major label, because of all the money that he had to pay back to the label and the marketers and his managers and the lawyers. So that also helped, was what revolutionized the game as far as the internet goes. And that's going to tie into where I'm going with the business plan. Today we have Uber, eBay, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Angie's List, and iCloud, Airbnb, and of course iTunes. So the game has changed as far as businesses go. There's no need really for, I believe, for the hard copy of the business plan. Nowadays, what you really need is a kick-ass website. Not just really a kick-ass website, but a kick-ass product or kick-ass service on a website, and it basically sells itself. Um, and I would advise anyone to first start with a website, definitely. So let me get into the 10 ways to attract investors that I believe, and some of these I have used. Investors today can care less what's on your business plan. I hate to say it. The pitch and the approach is everything. You and I could be selling the same service or product, but once again, it depends on how you present yours versus how I present mine. So the website, I believe, is first, then the business plan second. If you want to have one just in case the investors want to see, and keep it short term, keep it about a 3 year projection. You have to also keep in mind the second way to attract investors is what's in it for them. The thing is, a lot of us sometimes we're thinking so much about ourselves and how we're going to benefit, but we never think about why would this business take that risk and lose their money, or why would this private investor or angel investor part with their money for you. What's in it for them? It's not all about your passion. All right. Three, the third way is low risk. You only have an idea and ambition versus proven track record. Low risk. Or is your idea too out of the box versus something that's already proven? Investors, I know I'm more likely to part with my money when the risk is very low. If someone's coming with something that's just too out of the box, too revolutionary, or just too unheard of, I know it's going to be harder to market that and sell that versus something that's already out there, but you're just tweaking it a bit and making it your own. So I don't want to discourage anyone from your own ideas, but I would say it's easier to attract investors when there is low risk. So you want to go with something that's kind of familiar to them, that was successful, rather than picking something that totally bombed. Or if you do that, just repackage it so it sounds like, hey, there's not even much risk here. If you don't make your money back, you didn't lose too much here. Um, is your fourth way, is your idea a hobby, something that only interests a niche market, or is it global? Money can be recouped faster and easier. So distinguish between that with your project when you want to attract investors, because they really want to know this stuff. Is your idea something that's like just a hobby? Uh, is it like just something some people may enjoy to do, like it may tie into fishing, like uh, a- something you could put a beer on your belt when you go fishing, something that's a hobby, which would definitely be a niche market need, or something that's global, something that everyone can use. Is it something like an app, or is it something like something for cars, something where people can actually buy gas but then put a filter in, I guess, that gives them more mileage on it? Is it something global, something like that, that you could actually recoup your money with fast on faster? You have to distinguish between what it is you're trying to sell, your product or your service. And is it a niche market, or is it something that's global, or is it mainstream nationwide? Because you know the more broader the market, the more chances you have of recouping your money. The investor has to making their money back. Where if it's just a hobby or something like that that just caters to a niche market, um, you actually can reach that meet your market faster, but the profits are really not as good as when you're going after. It's like pitching an idea, selling something to five people versus going into a stadium, a football stadium, and trying to sell. You're guaranteed to make a lot more money that way. Okay, the fifth way is to have some credibility, meaning you should either have a degree or something in that field, or have the experience, or the sales, or the relationships. Something has to vouch for you in order to convince them to part with their money. Have some credibility. A good example is when I first approached a few colleges and wanted to teach with them. I didn't have a master's degree, but I had a bachelor's in business. But I also worked at Google on a project, so that's vouched for me. That spoke. That opened the door for me. I had to say no more. All I had to do was just package it and let the school know how it would benefit them. But I had that credibility. Um, Number six, instead of a business plan, have a fact sheet or bio about your business and or goals, or let your website do the talking for you. So when you want to attract investors, you don't want to give them this huge, once again, that huge clunky business plan, either be hard copy or soft copy. No one wants to read through all of that, especially when they're being pitched at all hours of the day. I would say just put a little fact sheet or bio that just summarizes your business or your services, and just put those key points right away, something that would make them ask for more. Or also, and don't forget to also always have a website. Always have a website that does the talking for you, that they can click through, and all their questions, even put a Q&A on your website. Questions and answers, all those questions that you think an investor may ask, have the answer for it right there. So it leaves little thinking for them to do. Number seven, don't cut corners or it will show. When I say don't cut corners, meaning that if you don't come to investors, don't let your mouth put you in a position that you know you can't produce. So don't talk a good game about your business or service. Then when they say, hey, hand us a product, now you have nothing to present. You have no website, you have nothing. All you had was your running your mouth, and hyping everyone up, hyping yourself up, and now everyone wants to actually see what you have to present, and you have nothing to show because you cut corners. You didn't want to do the homework, or also cut corners could be not doing the homework. And you've seen this on Shark Tank. They'll ask some of the presenters questions about their business, and they'll look like a deer in the headlights. They have no answer for. They'll ask them, what are their margins, or how much do they expect to make over the next 3 years, or just some question that an investor really wants to know because it ties into how they're going to make their money back and how fast. And then the person doesn't know. They didn't do the research. They wanted to just cut corners, get on TV, get the attention, get the money, and go. Number 8, look professional. You are your product or your service, and your product or your service is you. Um, when I say look, a good show I always tell people to check out is a show called American Greed on MSNBC. You had a guy called Ferrari Mike Benuelos. He's a prime example of look professional, you are your product or service. This guy was basically a major con artist that was duping investors, but he was telling everyone that he knew Ludacris, he knew Usher, and he was actually getting artists. Rather than him spend money on the artists were spending money on him. Why? Because what he would do right away is he drove a Ferrari. He would show them his own homemade video, and it looked just like MTV Cribs produced it, with him in a mansion showing off his. He had nothing but luxury cars that cost the price of a house. And he would show this to investors, and he would show this to artists. So he had the look. He right away they felt like this guy's the real deal. He really doesn't need our money. The more like they want to know what he knows. What is he doing to make it to drive not just one of these kind of cars, but a few of them, right? So you want to look professional always. You want to look like you are that you are selling, and that product should also represent you. Number 9 is excitement. You have to be excited about what you're doing, no matter how many no's you hear. You have to be excited about it because that energy will always translate to others. People can see your desire for this, and when you believe in it, I believe if you hang in there long enough, and if you're realistic about it, and you make those modifications along the way, when you get good advice, you'll come through. But you have to stay excited about it. And number 10, don't get discouraged. There's very few people that the first time out the box they were a success, right? Um, KFC, Colonel Sanders, he was 65 when he came up with the recipe for KFC. He was a failed entrepreneur for a very long time. So his story to me is the ultimate motivator. That's someone that late in life. Also, the writer of Harry Potter, it's a shame I forgot her name, but she was on welfare. She was on social public assistance when she wrote the Harry Potter books. And now that woman is a billionaire, I believe. So those are two good examples of don't get discouraged. Could you imagine having children, being a single mom on public assistance, and still believing that this is not all the world or Mother Nature or Father Time or God, whatever the universe has in store for you, there's more for you out there? And writing these books, if it's just a paper and a pen or a typewriter, whatever she used, and look at what we see now. The Harry Potters are embedded in our minds as some of the greatest science fiction movies we've ever seen, right? And KFC speaks for itself. So I'm going to run through the 10 ways to attract investors. I'm just going to recap them for you. Um, Once again, uh, number 1, have a website first, and then have a business plan, right? But have that website, all right? And make sure your pitch is good. Number 1 is have that website, a slight business plan, and your pitch, your approach is what you want to first. That thing, that's all one. The website uh, first, and a business plan, and what is your pitch? What is your approach? What is your sales pitch? Number 2, what's in it for the investor? 3, when you're trying to get money, it should be something of low risk. Even if it's not of low risk, it has to be presented as something that's low risk to the event to the investor. So remember, low risk. Number 4, is your idea hobby versus something that's mainstream, right? Is this something that's local or something nationwide, national, or international? 5, have some credibility. 6, instead of a business plan, um, use a fact sheet, right? A bio about yourself that summarizes what it is you're selling or your service. Seven, don't cut corners because it will show. Number eight, look professional. You are your product and service, and your service and product are you. Number nine, have excitement. Number 10, don't get discouraged. So I know some of them kind of overlap, but I would love to know what your thoughts are. And once again, I can tell you these are all ideas or things that I have used in my experience, and I haven't done too bad in life. All right, so just please, I love to hear your comments. You know, you can always follow me on Twitter, Mitch Holmes 3, and that's the Roman numeral 3. Have a good day.